Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here at Tutor2, and I'm going to go over to the Business Live Lounge to see who's joining me today for this live 30-minute Mike. It's Mike, by the way. Everyone say hello to Mike in the chat window. 30
Hello,
minutes
everyone.
today on operations.
That's right.
So we've got a variety of activities as per normal. Mike, do you want to take us through how the chat screen works for those who've not attended one of these live sessions before?
Yeah.
And then I'll crack on with the first activity.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so this is, as per previous sessions, we'd like you to join in. So we've got the chat window set up for you to be able to do that. And I can see a few people saying hello, which is great. So I know you can hear us. Variety of activities this afternoon. And we want you to join in to offer your ideas and your answers in the chat window. So useful to have a calculator nearby. There are going to be some numerical questions, and just give it a go. I think we can make a start, Jim.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, as people get their calculating implement live, what we'll do is we'll start with a code cracking activity, and the reason we start with this is we're not allowed to continue the session until somebody types in the 5 letters that crack the code. So on the screen there we've got 5 well-known businesses, and Forbes, a well-known business publication in 2020, gave lots of multinationals a brand value. This isn't the same thing as market capitalization, but they valued the brands of these global businesses and tried to work out the world's most valuable brands, and we've picked the top 5. But what you need to do in the chat window is give us the 5 letters that equate to the top 5 in order, in descending order of value. So what do we think they are? 5 letters, and once we've cracked the code, once we've got the 5 letters in the correct order, we can continue the session. Hopefully we won't be here at midnight tonight still having a go. First one in is from SJB, who's gone CABDE, which isn't correct. We'll know when someone's cracked the code because automatically the slide will reveal the correct answer. So have a go. What do we think? You can have as many goes as you want, by the way. It's not restricted to one. So Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple and Facebook. The answers are starting to flow through now. So far, no one's started with the right letter. Okay, I think you're going to need a clue. The clue is the first letter is D. Apple was valued by Forbes as the most valuable brand, so our code needs to start. And oh, wait a minute, we have the code cracked, and it was Benjamin who got it right first. It is DCBAE. So well done, Benjamin, for enabling us to continue the session. That's a relief, Mike.
Yeah,
Apple,
absolutely.
Google, Microsoft, Amazon and Facebook were the order that Forbes, based on their valuation, put those businesses in. So well done for that. Mike, do you want to take us into our first operations linked activity?
Will do. Thank you very much, Jim. So we've got some multiple choice questions here, and your task is simply to put what you think is the correct answer in the chat window. One correct answer for each of these. And question 1 is on the screen. The formula to calculate capacity utilization, is it A, actual output divided by maximum possible output? Is it B, maximum possible output divided by actual output times 100? Is it C, actual output divided by maximum possible output times 100? Or is it D, maximum possible output divided by actual output? Lots of answers coming in already. Keep them coming, please. Great stuff. Okay, lots and lots of agreement here, I think, in the most part. Certainly we are looking at C. Capacity utilization is a measure of how much of a firm's total capacity they are currently using. So it's actual output divided by maximum possible output and then times by 100. It's a percentage. Well done, all those who got it right. Here's question 2. Which of the following would reduce the capacity of a car manufacturer? A, add an extra shift. B, reduce the selling price per new car, C, reduce labour costs, or D, change to a shorter working week? Which would reduce the capacity, A, B, C, or D? Well done, those who have given us an answer so far. Remember, A, B, C, or D, the answer is on the screen there. You simply have to work out which one it is. Well done, SJB, Kyle, Dan. See on the list there. Great, lots of correct answers coming in. So reducing the capacity of a car manufacturer would be D. Changing to a shorter working week, that would reduce the capacity, the amount they are able to produce. The maximum amount they're able to produce would be reduced. Question number 3, in a labour-intensive business, an increase in labour productivity, would it A, increase the break-even point? Would it B, increase unit costs? Would it C, reduce profit? Or D, reduce unit costs? Have a go. If you don't answer this, then you'll definitely get it wrong. Have a guess if you're not sure. So a labour-intensive business and labour productivity is increasing. Don't have universal agreement on this. Oh, actually, no, I think we do now. So labour-intensive business, one that's reliant on labour rather than capital equipment, and labour productivity is increasing. So the output from the labour force is increasing over the same time period. The answer here, therefore, must be D again. Reduce unit costs. So labour productivity means greater output from the same inputs, which is going to mean costs are spread over a greater number of units, and therefore the cost of producing each unit will be reduced. Well done, all those who got that right. Question number 4. A business has total variable costs per month of £100,000 and monthly fixed costs of £20,000. The business produces 240,000 units per year. What is the cost of producing one unit? Is it A, £6, B, £3, C, £2, or D, 50 pence? Cost of producing one unit. Have a go. Always read the question carefully. Here we go, answers flooding in. I thought we might get a range of responses on this. More difficult question, perhaps. A, B, C, or D? Just have a go, have a guess if necessary. So far we've got A, C, and D given as options. Let's have a look at the answer, please, Jim. The answer here is A, £6. So the total variable cost per month are £100,000 and the monthly fixed costs are £20,000. But then, crucial thing, the business produces 240,000 units per year. So the business produces 20,000 units per month, 12 months in a year, 20,000 units per month. So the monthly total costs are 120,000 divided by 20,000 units means £6 per unit. Well done, all those who got it right. Well done, all those who gave it a go. Here's our final multiple choice question then. A business reduces its workforce by increasing automation via new technology. This results in capacity increasing by 25% and an 11% increase in unit costs. This is an example of, is it A, more labour-intensive production leading to economies of scale? Is it B, more capital-intensive production leading to diseconomies of scale? Is it C, more labour-intensive production leading to diseconomies of scale? Or D, more capital-intensive production leading to economies of scale? A, B, C, or D? Have a go. Good stuff. Again, read this very carefully, please. A mix of answers here between B and D, I think. The correct answer, though, is B. And with most of you, if not all of you, are recognizing that the business is becoming more capital intensive, increasing automation, adding technology. They're becoming more capital intensive, therefore they don't need the same workforce. The workforce is reducing. So it's definitely more capital intensive, but what's happening to unit costs? They are increasing. Increasing unit cost as output is increasing is diseconomies of scale. Again, well done, those of you who got that right, and thanks for having a go. I'll hand back to you, Jim, for the next activity.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well done, everyone. There were some challenging questions there, and covered a lot of concepts in operations in those 5. And we'll return to some of those in the rest of this session. But for now, let's do a 60-second challenge, or if you like, we'll give you a bit longer. We'll give you a minute to complete this question. On the screen there, we've got a short case study about the Tanfield Railway and some information about capacity utilisation and capacity. You've got 60 seconds to calculate the new capacity utilisation based on a planned reduction in the number of carriages, assuming that each carriage holds the same number of passengers. Let's start the clock and see if you can type your answer into the chat window before the clock finishes 60 seconds. Okay, the clock has come to an end, so that activity on the Tanfield Railway has come to a stop. And I can see from the chat window that whilst some of you were on the right track, most of you have gone off the rails a little. There's some answers coming through now. And indeed, I think SJB and Will have correctly identified that the answer is 87.5%. That's quite a challenging calculation to do in just over a minute. So let's take a look at the workings. And as we always say, Mike and I and Graham always say, whenever you get a question that involves some manipulation of data to get to an answer, always show your workings, because there's credit to be had even if you don't necessarily get to the right answer. Well, we were told that the total capacity of the business was the utilisation was 70% when they were running with 350 passengers. Therefore, the capacity must have been 500. So you just divide the output 350 by the capacity utilisation to get to the potential output. We were told that which therefore is 100 passengers per carriage. We're going to reduce the number of carriages from 5 to 4. Therefore, our new capacity will be 400. Well, if we continue to serve 350 passengers, but with just 4 carriages, 400 capacity, our new utilisation is 87.5%. So we had to manipulate the utilisation data and then work out the new capacity to get to that new capacity utilisation data. Well done for having a go. Mike, do you want to take us on to the next activity?
Will do, Jim. I'll just before I do, I'll just raise one more point on that calculation. If you're able to do that in 60 seconds, that is extremely impressive. So don't be alarmed if you needed more time. We didn't quite get to the final answer in 60 seconds. 60 seconds is really going some, and is probably less time than you would allow yourself in an assessment situation. Thanks, Jim. Let's have a look at these 2 statement multiple choice questions then. These are slightly different to the ones we looked at before. Here we have 2 statements, statement number 1 and imaginatively statement number 2. And your job is to decide whether these are true or false. So statement number 1 says that offshoring involves delegating one or more business processes to an external provider. Statement number 2, outsourcing involves relocating businesses' processes such as manufacturing to another country. If you think that statement 1 is true and statement 2 is true, put A. If you think that statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false, put B. If you think that statement 1 is false but statement 2 is true, C. And if you think they're both false, put D. Good to see the answers coming in already. Not universal agreement at the moment. A few more seconds. We've got answers ranging from A, B, and D so far. Let's have a look at the correct answer then, please, Jim. As somebody in the chat window, Arian, I think, identified, we said here that both of these are false. Offshoring involves delegating one or more business processes to an external provider. Well, that would be outsourcing, and offshoring would be relocating business processes to another country. So the definitions have been reversed and they are therefore both false. Well done those of you that put D. I'm looking in the chat window. Luke and Gabe, Bikram, Daisy, Arian, well done, and all the others who got it right as well. Here's another one then. Statement number 1 here says if unit costs are falling and output is rising, then the business may be experiencing diseconomies of scale. Statement number 2, the success of just-in-time operations is often dependent on good supplier relationships. Same again, if you think they're both true, it's A. If you think 1 is true and 2 is false, it's B. If you think that 1 is false and 2 is true, it's C. And if they're both false, it's D. Have a go. Well done. Lots and lots of answers here. Yep, and universal agreement. I think we recognise the answer here has to be C. That statement 1 is false. If unit costs are falling and output is rising, well, that would be economies of scale rather than diseconomies of scale. So statement number 1 must be false. Statement number 2, the success of just-in-time operations is often dependent on good supplier relationships. Well, that's very true. Just-in-time puts more pressure perhaps on suppliers and requires more frequent deliveries, perhaps smaller deliveries, but more frequent, which adds importance to that relationship with the supplier. Well done with the 2-statement MCQs. Jim, back to you.
Yeah, just picking up on what we've covered so far, Mike, and I think there's an exercise that you're going to run in a minute, which I think helps reinforce this point, which is just around the need to really make sure you're on top of your terminology, your specialist terminology in A-level business. There is a lot of terminology in there, and some of it you might be familiar with, for example, if you've studied GCSE business before. But a lot of the time, terms and concepts in A-level business are similar sounding, but actually different. And so you'll often find in assessments, whether it be sort of mini tests or internal assessments or even full exam papers, that the examiner tries to test whether you can identify the difference. So, for example, if thinking about operations, we've got one on the screen there, offshoring and outsourcing, which Mike covered in the previous question. Quality control and quality assurance are two quite different concepts in quality management for operations, and it's important to know the difference. One is quality control is about inspecting quality. Quality assurance is about the process of assuring quality. Let me think of a couple more. Economies of scale, economies of scope, and one that Mike's already mentioned, labour productivity, and a similar sounding concept, labour turnover, which actually is a people or HRM concept. So I think it'll just be worth your while before you take assessments in the coming weeks and months, just to make sure you're bang on top of your specialist terminology. Would you say, Mike?
I think that's absolute exam gold, Jim. Yeah, absolutely.
Should we have a go at an activity where we can put that to the test?
Let's do it. Let's go with another 60-second challenge here, or a minute if you prefer. Your task here is to match the definitions on the left with the terms on the right. So A, B, C, D, and E. You need to move them with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All you need to do is to put in the chat window, for example, B3, E1, and so on. 60 seconds, give it a go. Really well done. Lots of you giving answers there. Some to 1 or 2 of these, but several of you have answered all 5 and matched up all 5. Let's have a look at the answers then. So A, continuous improvement, is Kaizen. Kaizen, Japanese word that means continuous improvement. B, production that requires a large percentage of investment in non-current assets such as machinery, is number 3, capital intensive. C, an approach to management that involves cutting out waste whilst maintaining quality, is lean production. And then D, inspecting products to ensure that quality standards have been met, is quality control. This is a good example of what Jim was talking about just now, about really knowing your terminology, because quality control and quality assurance are 2 that are fairly frequently, all too frequently, confused. So quality control is inspecting products to ensure that quality standards have been met, often at the end of the production process, but quality assurance is the approach where you're trying to get it right first time. So there's much more emphasis on self-checking. Jim, back to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, Mike. So yeah, great example of specialist terminology in action. Right, let's move on to a really complicated exam-style activity now called bingo, a new type of assessment question which will come into play in 2027. What your challenge now is just to spend 30 seconds or so thinking about the problems of when a business is operating at a high level of capacity utilization. Now, we often associate that with good news, don't we? High capacity utilization is often associated with operating efficiently and lower unit costs, but there can be some downsides or disadvantages to operating at high utilization. So into the chat window, please, just for a few seconds, can you start to type in some possible problems that might arise if a business is operating with high capacity utilization? And in half a minute or so, I'll start releasing the capacity utilization balls from the bingo machine to see whether they match with anything that you've typed into the chat window. And the answers are starting to flood in. Excellent. Kyle has gone for not being able to cope with a surge in demand. Will has got a very similar concept there, being able to react to sudden increases in demand. John has gone for an argument around the maintenance or the reliability of machinery. Grace has taken an HRM approach, talking about the need or maybe less time for staff training. Keep them coming. These are great. A few more seconds to have a go, and then we'll release the balls and see what the bingo machine has come up with. A few more seconds. Shall we have a look? So if you got any of these, maybe you didn't type them to the chat window, but maybe you jotted them down, or even if you came up with them just in your head, just type a yes exclamation mark into the chat window. And if you got all 6, just shout or type bingo in. Okay, the first one we've got coming through the bingo machine. Oops, let's go back. Why don't we actually send the machine go in the right direction? The first one is, less able to meet sudden increases in demand. We've had 3 or 4 people already mention that. The issue with high utilization is that if you don't have much capacity left, suddenly you get an increase in demand, it's harder to meet it. Second ball is a quality argument that production may be rushed, may be lower quality as a consequence. Your machinery, the factory is working flat out. You maybe cut corners in order to achieve the output that you need to meet demand. Therefore, there's a risk of lower quality. Do some of you get that? And I'm sure I saw this come up with 2 or 3 suggestions in the chat window. There is a strong argument that if you're consistently working at high levels of capacity utilization, then one of the downsides is an increase in the demands placed on employees, employee stress, and linked to reduced employee well-being. The fourth ball, less time for quality control. So if the machinery, for example, is working flat out 100% of the time, it's quite hard to check every item that's coming off the end of the production line. Fifth ball, and this was definitely mentioned in the chat window, less time for maintenance. It's often said that particularly in a manufacturing business, you'd need to be operating at less than 100% utilization to allow routine scheduled maintenance, because if you don't do that, if you don't fix the machinery and maintain them whilst you go, then you could have a significant downtime if everything falls apart. And lastly, the sixth ball out. Oh yeah, there we go. A people argument, less time for staff training. It's true, isn't it? If you're working flat out, there's less time to develop your staff. So did anyone get all 6 of the bingo balls on problems of high capacity utilization? It looks like quite a few did. Well done on that one. Right, Mike, back over to you, I think, for our our penultimate calculation.
Yes, so we've got a 60-second challenge here with a calculation for you. The clue's in the name, really. 60 seconds to try and come up with the right answer to this question. A business sells 2 products, product A and product B. The selling price per unit of product A is £5, and the variable cost per unit of product A is £2. The business produces 40,000 units of product A per month and has yearly fixed costs of £120,000. Calculate the cost of producing 1 unit of product A, and here are 60 seconds. "60 seconds goes by pretty quickly. And remember what I said before, that if you're able to solve that in 60 seconds, you're doing extremely well. But conversely, if you haven't, then don't be too downhearted, because that would be very difficult. It is very difficult to do. Let's have a look at the answer. So we're asked to calculate the cost of producing 1 unit of product A. Well, first of all, we should note that the fixed costs are annual fixed costs, so £120,000 per year. If we divide that by 12, it works out nicely at £10,000 per month. The cost of producing 40,000 units of product A, then the variable costs are going to be 40,000 multiplied by 2, which is 80,000, plus 10,000 for the fixed costs, means £90,000 a month for the total costs. The cost of producing 1 unit of product A, therefore, is 90,000 divided by 40,000, which is £2.25. Well done to SJB, Maheen, John, Dan, Sky, who seem to have got the right answer and put it in the chat window. So what we're working out first of all is the monthly fixed costs, and then we're going to work out the total costs of producing 40,000 units, and then the cost per unit. Hopefully that answers some of the questions that are coming up in the chat window. Jim.
Yeah, good one. Right.
True and false.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. This is a quick fire one where you need to type in either true or false into the chat window. These are very quick fire questions, testing your understanding of some operations concept. Here's the first one. Buffer stock is the maximum level of inventory a business aims to hold. Is that true or false? Quick fire. I'll give you 5 or 10 seconds to have a think about that question. That statement, buffer stock is the maximum level of inventory a business aims to hold. And let's have a look at the answer. It is false. Well done. I think everybody typed false into the chat window, so well done. Good awareness there. Actually, buffer stock is the minimum level of inventory a business aims to hold. I wonder whether the Tanfield Railway Company holds buffer stock. I might have to find out. Okay, here's your next one. Lead time. Lead time is the difference between placing an order and receiving the stock. So we're into inventory management here. Lead time, is it the difference between placing an order and receiving the stock? Have a think. A few more seconds. And most people, I would say 99.256% of you are going for true, and it is indeed true. Yeah, lead time is one of those concepts that we consider when we're looking at inventory management, and in particular inventory control charts. The inventory time, of course, the lead time, sorry, will vary, so it's important to bring in some context, some application here. It will vary by different types of operation and also in different circumstances. So actually over the last few weeks and months we've seen lead times increase in lots of industries as there's been sort of disruption to production output overseas, perhaps as a result of COVID and lockdowns, and also disruption on supplies coming into the UK as we get to grips with the new trading arrangements post-Brexit. So lead times are hugely important for businesses, particularly those that have lean production, where they want to minimise the amount of time it takes to receive items into the production process. Last one on true or false before I hand back to Mike for his final calculation. It's a capacity utilisation question. If capacity utilisation has increased, then a business must be producing more output. Is that true or false? If utilisation has increased, then a business must be producing more output. A few more seconds. And the continued high standard of responses throughout this session is sustained into this question. Most people putting false, and indeed the answer is false, because of course it's entirely possible that output may have stayed the same even if capacity utilisation has increased, or output has fallen. It's entirely possible output may have fallen, but capacity had fallen further, which meant that utilisation had gone up. So that is false. So well done. Mike, I think you've got one more 60-second challenge.
I have, yeah. And I think we've got the hang of this now. So here's another 60-second challenge, another calculation for you. So calculators at the ready. A business has a capacity utilization of 70%. It is considering increasing its capacity by 25%. Calculate the new capacity utilization based on the proposed increase, assuming the business produces the same number of units. So business has a capacity utilization of 70% and is looking to increase it by 25%. Unsurprisingly, perhaps this is proved quite challenging. It's a difficult question. So we'll look at the answer. I don't think we've had too many responses come through here, but the easiest thing to do here is to say, well, at the start, if their capacity utilization was 70%, they were producing 70 units when their capacity was 100, for example. If they're going to increase their capacity by 25%, then the capacity is going to increase from 100 to 125 units. So from 100 to 125 units, they're going to produce the same number of units. So still going to produce 70 units, but this time 70 units against a capacity of 125. So multiply that by 100. The answer is 56%. Hopefully, in reviewing that, you can see how we got to that answer. Well done, those of you that were able to do that in 60 seconds. Jim, are we going to do, we're going to do the big reveal?
We are, yeah. That's a challenging question. That I think that's, and I think one or two people have seen how we get to the answer there. Sometimes the best way is just to sort of take as you say, Mike, take an example, 100 units, and then work through the percentages to manipulate the formula to get to the new number. But that was a challenging question. So well done for having a go at that. We've got one last activity before we sign off. It's called the big reveal. I'm going to reveal a series of clues on the screen, and your task, without doing any Google searches, is to be the first person to type into the chat window the name of the business. So which business is this? If you wish, you can have a go now before you see any of the clues. And unsurprisingly, no one's had a go. Let's look at the first clue. It was established in 1913. So that rules out one or two businesses. Apple is coming through on the chat window. I don't think that was established quite as early as 1913. It's been around a while, but not that long. We shall see, Carl. Okay, next clue. It was set up by Anna Albrecht. Still waiting for the first correct answer in the chat window. Let's take a look at clue number 3. It was taken over in 1948 by her sons Theo and Carl. Taken over in 1948 by her sons Theo and Carl. And it looks like we're going to need the fourth clue before someone gets the right answer. Here it is. The name of this business is short for Albrecht Discount. And it's close, but I think Amy was the first, perhaps equal first with Kyle, in terms of identifying that the correct answer is indeed Aldi. It's not TK Maxx Grace. It is indeed Aldi. To help you, the fifth clue was going to be supermarket, but you didn't need that. So supermarket was the fifth clue, Aldi. And I tell you what, let's just do a final activity. Closest, please. Can someone tell me what the percentage market share is of Aldi in the UK supermarket? And this is based on the latest data as of yesterday for the last 12 weeks. So I've got the latest data here in front of me. Can anyone get within a percentage point perhaps of the market share of Aldi? I'll give you a clue. It's now the 5th largest supermarket group in the UK, behind Morrison's, Asda, Tesco and Sainsbury's. These are going for 8%. Bickerman is going for quite an ambitious 23%. As soon as somebody gets within a percentage point, I'll give you the virtual prize, which is a free entry to next week's online session. A wide variety of answers coming through, and at last, Dan is the winner. Mr. Mills, Dan Mills is the winner. 7%. The answer is 7.4%. 7.4% is Aldi's market share in the UK. Well done. Fantastic stuff. Mike, what a great end to a very productive session, and fantastic answers by everybody in the session.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Just thanks so much to everyone for joining in. Hopefully that if you weren't able to get the right answer, you're able to see where you were going wrong. That's the most important thing. So well done.
Fantastic stuff. I think we're just about to announce the dates, the times, and the dates for the post half term series of our A-level revision sessions. So hopefully you found these useful. I'm pretty sure the next one is a calculation special that draws on all of the different functional areas, and then thereafter we'll announce the topic areas that we're going to cover. Although it will be really useful if there is something specific that you'd like us to focus on that we can plan into the next few weeks. Type it into the comments window on the YouTube video here rather than the chat window. We'll be able to pick that up when we take a look through the comments that we get through in the next day or so. Huge thanks to Mike for dialing in and joining us again for this session. Fantastic stuff. If you enjoyed it, please give the session a thumbs up in the YouTube window there. And if you want to get an alert for when all the new sessions are set up, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. But for now, it's me from Jim, and from Mike, a big thanks for joining us on this half-term revision session. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.